I'll start my talk today with a number. 85 million. 85 million is the number of barrels of oil that we consume on Earth every day. You just heard that we're in the business of making fuels, so there's not really a big market challenge. It's obviously there because most of those barrels of oil are turned into fuel. But what do we know about oil? What we know is that its demand is going to increase. Over the next 20 years, the demand for oil is going to go up by around 40%. Interestingly, over that same time period, the number of people on Earth will grow by about 1 billion, from 7 billion today to at least 8 billion. We also know that the combustion of oil, either through its refining or through or when we burn it as a fuel, releases CO2. CO2 is accumulating in the atmosphere, and that accumulation is having grave environmental, economic, and health impacts throughout the world. So how do we make fuels without burning oil? The only mature technology we have today, the only process available to us, is to actually ferment food resources such as sugar in Brazil or corn in the US into an alcohol that can be used to displace fuel. But I just said that the number of people on Earth is going up, and today we already have a problem with supplying enough food to everyone. So that obviously is not going to work. Yeah? So we got a bit of strife here, and we came into this space really interested in the idea of making low carbon fuels that emit less CO2 in the atmosphere. But we weren't convinced of the strategy that were being used at the time, i.e. using food to produce fuel. So what's the ideal stuff from which to make fuel? We had no idea. So we made a list, because we're scientists and lists are the thing we do. So we thought, right, it'd be great if it was something that was here today already, it was available, because the problem's kind of today. It would be great if it was something that was abundant, available in very large quantities. We're not talking about making Fabergé eggs, we're talking about making fuels to put in everybody's Hummer. We would like it to be point sourced. So we'd like it to be in a single location because the transport costs associated with fuels, of aggregating stuff to make fuels are really high. Okay, we're biologists, but even we know that if you're turning gold into silver, you haven't really got a great business. So it's got to be low value, So it's got to be lower value than the fuel you're about to make. And we already mentioned it should be non-food. And what we'd made a list describing was waste resources. So waste resources such as industrial off-gases, municipal solid waste, or residues from agriculture. And these either exist today as gases or can easily be turned into gases, carbon monoxide and hydrogen-containing gases. So what we were looking for was a technology to convert gases into fuels. So this is where being a biologist gets somewhat useful, because then we started thinking, well, so where in nature are there technologies, or is there an ability to convert gases into fuels? And this really sends us on a bit of a journey through time, a pretty long journey through time. So this is a history of the Earth in billions of years. The Earth formed over 4 point something billion years ago. No one was there. No one knows exactly. The dinosaurs came about around 400 million years ago. Then they disappeared again. We came around 60 million years ago, and we're doing our best to make a mess of the place. Over that time period, the Earth had 3 atmospheres, and if we keep going the way we're going, we're going to have a 4th soon. But in the beginning, that's a big statement, in the beginning, there was an atmosphere that was full of hydrogen, carbon monoxide, methane, and carbon dioxide. The principal sources of energy on Earth were gases, and it was in that environment that life first evolved. And it's thought that life evolved in these hydrothermal vents where warm gases mix with metal catalysts and sulfur compounds, and these were able to catalyze the formation of the first biomolecules, which sort of aggregated together and brought about the first microbes that could divide themselves. These microbes were gas fermenters. They lived on carbon monoxide and hydrogen-containing gases. And that capability, that biochemistry, is today found in a discrete group of organisms called acetogens. So acetogens are defined by the fact that they can use carbon monoxide and hydrogen-containing gases instead of sugars or whatever else as the only thing they need to grow and live and survive. So remember, we wanted to turn industrial resources, industrial waste gases into fuels, and we figured that these hydrothermal vents pretty much look like some places that we get to visit in China. So that's probably a good place to start. Acetogens would be a good place to start to develop this technology. And sure enough, that's what we did. We took these microbes that are able to live on gases and have used them to develop a technology to consistently produce a fuel from industrial off-gases. This fuel can offer up to a 70% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions compared to gasoline from oil. It can be produced. This fuel can be produced in billions of litres a year throughout the world, wherever these resources are found. So that's good. We started in the lab with a microbe and a test tube. In 2005. This is a picture of a plant that we built in China last year, just outside of Shanghai. Just to give you a sense of scale, this is the reactor in which we've got our bacteria. That thing's about 20 meters high. The photographer's kind of standing here with a big steel mill behind him, and it takes gas from a steel mill and converts that gas into fuel. This is a pre-commercial plant. It produces around 400,000 liters of fuel a year, which is kind of an amount that an oil refiner can hold in his bladder, so it's not that much. But the next step for us is to take that and make a big commercial plant. We want to be this. We want to be a company that can convert a whole bunch of different gases into a whole bunch of different fuel and chemical molecules. Very excited by the idea that you can do carbon capture and sequestration, sequester atmospheric CO2 into chemicals that are used for everyday stuff. At LanzaTech, the piece that we do is this. We develop the microbes, obviously. We can develop non-modified microbes. We can also genetically modify microbes to allow them to produce exciting new chemicals. We also do all the process engineering, process control, and process chemistries that allow these gases to be converted into this array of fuels and chemicals. The company today can be described in these terms. We have we've raised a lot of venture capital over the years, around $100 million, mostly from the US, but also from China and Malaysia. We have around 140 staff. We have a great CEO, Jennifer Holmgren, and we have a very aggressive attitude towards IP. So, as for my journey here, I started life as say, a biologist. I did a PhD in tomato fruit ripening. Yeah, so I was one of the 10 people in the world that really knew how tomato fruits ripen, which is great. But I didn't stay in that lofty place. I went on. I moved to New Zealand, where people turned out you already knew. So I joined a company called Genesis R&D, and this is when I joined the company here. This is the share price of Genesis R&D. This is when I joined the company. It wasn't just me in Genesis. There was a bunch of us. It didn't go so well, but it was a great place to learn. And actually, out of Genesis came a lot of different science ideas and businesses, such as LanzaTech. And so in that sense, Genesis really was a success. It was a great place for me to learn about commercial science, about business. There were so many things that I didn't know going into Genesis, and now and coming out, I really felt that it was accessible. It was accessible to become a commercial scientist, if you like, an entrepreneur. So these are the two people that started LanzaTech, myself and Richard, and we started the company in 2005. Our objective was not to save the world, it was to get paid by Christmas. We started in March. We gave ourselves plenty of time, obviously. This was our first idea. This is not the basis of LanzaTech. It was the first idea, and it was the idea upon which we raised our first little bit of cash, about $100,000, to get going. The company today doesn't use this process. This was just kind of the first crazy thing that we decided to run with. We got money in New Zealand because we were able to connect with this guy, Sir Stephen Tyndall. I've been told this is a controversial thing to say, but I don't think it is. I think Stephen's probably the only risk-taking venture capitalist in this country, and the hopes and dreams of a lot of Kiwi entrepreneurs have been realised as a result of this man's vision. So, big thank you. And New Zealand needs a lot more Stephen Tyndalls, frankly. With the money we got from Stephen, we were able to build this fabulous lab set up here, a big rusty bottle, a reactor, and another smaller bottle. Based on this, we realized that the process that we developed was working. It could work. We could make fuels out of gas, but it needed to get a little bit bigger than this. We had to sort of go from that to a refinery. So we needed a lot more money, because that was going to be expensive. So then the question became, so how do I approach this guy, Vinod Khosla, one of the most well-respected and influential venture capitalists in the world in Silicon Valley, and ask him for millions of dollars? And the answer is the late, great Ross Clark. Ross Clark was a very successful Kiwi entrepreneur, who had this fantastic network of people he knew in Silicon Valley, and he introduced us to Vinod. Within 5 minutes of meeting Vinod, he'd told me many things. One, he told me I should probably leave if I didn't shut up, but he also told me that he liked the technology and that he would invest pretty much in that first meeting. So it was a very, very exciting time. Vinod then imparted a few pearls of wisdom, as he's known to do. He said what we needed to do was patent aggressively. One of the advantages we had was that in the area of gas fermentation at that time, there were a total of around 5 or 6 patents. We needed to get steel in the ground. We needed to get to scale fast. We needed to show that this thing could really work in the real world. And we needed to hire the best team. There were 4 of us when we approached Vinod in 2007. Today, as I said, we have 179 patents covering every aspect of our technology. We dominate the patent landscape in our space, and I would say that this is something that is atypical for Kiwi science businesses. We really pursue patenting very, very hard. There are 4 full-time patent attorneys working in LanzaTech, and they are all full-time, hard out, busy. We got steel in the ground. In 2005, as I mentioned, we had a test tube with a bit of data. In 2008, we probably knew a little bit more than we knew then, but not that much more, but we decided we'd go ahead and spend millions of dollars building a pilot plant at Glenbrook. We built this thing at a steel milling, the Glenbrook is a steel mill. We built this thing, we hooked it up to the gas from the steel mill, we turned it on, and it didn't work. It was a dog. But we built something, and we had something that cost us a lot of money that we're all very, very motivated to fix. and that's what we set about doing, and that's what we did. We fixed this thing, and we learned so much as a result of taking that risk, building something, and then challenging ourselves to fix it and make it work. And now, this is our greatest marketing tool. I can tell you can take Chinese steel guys from any steel mill in China, and you can bring them into your whizzy lab, and everybody's got a lovely white coat on and safety glasses, and the whole place is sterile and bright lit, and they hate it. They think it's all terrible, and they don't trust any of it. They don't see how this has got any relationship to their steel mill. You take them to a steel mill and you show this working, and they love it because it's filthy and you can barely breathe, and they can see the steel mill and they can see your facility and they can smell the ethanol, and they get that, yeah. So you're not now talking about a science project. You're talking about something that really integrates with an industrial facility. And we hired the best team. Jennifer Holmgren, our CEO, she came to us. She was the director of renewables at UOP. UOP are the premier supplier of technology to the oil industry, and the company's been transformed as a result of her joining. We have a business case. We can show steel mills that we can add greater value to their gases than is being added today by the conversion, for example, of those gases into power. And so once you have a technology, you have a business case, then you've got to hit the market. As I mentioned, the market for us really in the first instance is China. Half the world's steel is made in China. So we had to go and do business in China. No one had done that before in our company at that time, in the Koesler Ventures family. No one had done that. So we were kind of pioneering in that sense. And doing business in China is all about eating interesting food, drinking a lot, but signing deals, building relationships. It's all about relationships. You do a deal in America, you end up with a document of papers to sign that thick. In China, it's a very thin document because really the deal is about the relationship between you and the person across the table. Today we have two joint ventures, one with a steel company in Shanghai, another with a steel company out of Beijing. We have demonstration plants at both, and we're going to scale at each of those sites to commercial scale, and that's really our next challenge. We have a bunch of partners around the world. We've focused very strongly on partnerships, both in the area of feedstock and in the marketplace in terms of oil companies and chemical companies that will take our products. Innovation, I think, is key. Entrepreneurialism and innovation. And I guess that I've got a couple of slides now really sort of mapping out what I think is something that here in New Zealand we need to focus more on. I think we need to focus more on getting commercial science out the door. I think we should focus more on supporting entrepreneurs that are seeking to commercialize technology. This is what we look like. This is a much used image from a report that came out from the New Zealand Institute that describes us in comparison to Denmark. Denmark has around the same population as us. It has the same amount of per capita export GDP from agriculture, but Denmark have a massive amount of per capita export GDP from manufacturing of technology that they've developed. We don't have that to the same degree, and we need to. We need to accept we're doing really great with agriculture, but we're not doing so great with everything else. And I think that there's no reason for us not to be doing so. I am really passionate about this. I've recently joined the board of a group called the Ice House. The Ice House are a group that effectively have put together a lot of resources for companies of various sizes to allow them to grow and to hopefully help them commercialize and export products offshore. 90% of the Ice House is really well known for as an incubator, but actually 90% of their customers are SMEs, and so they have a lot of experience in dealing with SMEs and helping SMEs grow, etc. And they also pioneered the formation of this 3000 org, an organisation that's really dedicated to try and foster the growth of an additional 3,000 companies in New Zealand, and hopefully 3,000 companies in New Zealand that will be businesses of international quality that can export stuff from this great nation of ours. Look, you know, I think being an entrepreneur is a mixture of things. It's a mixture of at times needing to be quite bloody-minded, quite persistent in your vision and your views, but at other times having to accept that you don't know what you don't know. I think, though, that there are so many great ideas coming out of New Zealand. There is such a great wellspring of innovative concepts coming from here, and we can, from New Zealand, invent impactful things for the future. And we've got to do it. We've got to think about how we can turn our great ideas into great actions and successful companies. Thank you.